Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Marky Davison. Mark, how's it going?
I love that Down Under every week.
Down Under.
I love that every single week. I'm doing really well. How about you, Matty? What's going on in your part of Australia?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing all right. We're doing the lockdowns continue and what have you, but we're here talking Steelers, and that's the main thing. We got Daredevil in there, Shield 91 as always, Felicia, Brad Jewett, Tyler. Mark, what do you got to say to Felicia this morning?
I appreciate the comment. Thank you very much. She says we are the gifts that keep on giving. So that's that's a nice compliment to hear on YouTube or the internet. Something different. But you know what? With this live chat and the audio guys too, we have one of the greatest communities in I think, I would say overall on the internet, because the internet can be so toxic. So we have a great community here. We can talk football, have fun. And yeah, everyone's your mate in the live chat until some of the ratbirds show up, but then we just kick them out.
That's it. And even Reginald Rivers. I don't think I've seen Reginald in our live chat before. I know he's frequent on BTSC, so this is pretty cool. Hey to all the fam out there, whether you're listening live right now or on the audio side of things in a couple of days' time or whenever you're listening to it. Bad's getting these up really fast now, so it might even be the same day. And the cool thing is, I want to say before we crack into it too, next week, we're going to be like your pregame show. So Mark and I are pretty excited about that, actually. Yeah. And it's helpful for us because it's a Sunday. I don't have to wake up really early or, try and scramble to watch it between things or at lunchtime on a Friday for me. So, we're pretty excited about that. But jam-packed show today as well. We've got a lot to cover off, and it's definitely going to be an exciting one. And we're going to really try and give you guys a chance that are listening live to us right now to get some Q&A in there for the people across YouTube and Facebook. So it's going to be pretty bumper there. I'm sure there's loads of questions or things you want to bring up, given we're now 2 preseason games, technically, if you count the Hall of Fame game. So it's exciting times. But it's a pretty interesting title for us this week, rocking the Eagles with reforged steel. So, a newly forged steel. So there's lots of new Steelers that we know that have joined the roster this offseason, and we're really starting to sort of see them show up. But for Mark and I, we talk about it a little bit. We support a team in the National Rugby League here in Australia called the Manly Sea Eagles. And so it's very hard because this week on one night we were, watching the Steelers smash the Eagles. And then last night, Mark and I were basically cheering for some Eagles who won their game 56-10 and, are looking like one of the form teams in the comp. But when we talk about Eagle Rock, that was a song down under. I think it made its way to the US, but Daddy Cool, Eagle Rock. And it's really hard because Mark and I love that. But this week, as I say, we're here to talk Steelers, and we got to watch the Steelers absolutely rock the Eagles, come back from a deficit, and take the win there. But Mark, we've also got some big news to cover in a Steelers trade. But I want to get your first thoughts. How are you feeling now, or how are you feeling after the Steelers beat the Eagles this week, the Philadelphia Eagles?
I'll be very honest. So the first half, and the BTSC guys in the Slack chat know this as well. Every single play that we ran in the first half, I was like a bit cringy. They weren't running the ball. We just gave away too much. Too many yards on the defense as well. Ben that don't break mentality. I just didn't like the first half offense. I didn't like what Rudolph did in certain aspects too. I didn't think we ran the ball hard enough. And then in the second half, we see Haskins come in and really light it up. So it was an enjoyable game to watch. It shows me how much we miss preseason that, because I was getting so excited watching this game, and it's not even the regular season yet. So that's it. But still, I still think no matter what, it's a meaningless game. I still think you want these guys to perform. And when you see the Eagles tearing it up and Devin Bush getting beat on the sideline, even though there was only one play, you still think,
But it's not like it's not meaningless. Like for a lot of these guys, this is going to be whether they make this is make or break for their for their career. And I think it shows whether the Steelers have got the depth or not to go all the way. I think and if they don't, what do they need to add to it? And I think that's the piece that we've got to talk about. I mean, Joe Schobert, what a trade!
Yeah, unreal. That came in I think midway. During the preseason game with the Eagles, and you and I, we were stuck watching the Game Pass because we got the Game Pass in Australia. And I to tell you, you and I could do a better job commentary.
Mate, that was awful.
Eagles.
That was awful.
I've never seen two blokes be so monotone and not happy about talking about the Eagles. However, the Eagles, it's a tough place to play there, and it's just. We couldn't listen to Bill Hargrove and the boys from the new guys on the Steelers radio, because if you had the radio on, it mixed up with the visual as well. So that was really hard to listen to. Actually, I tried to watch Matty. I tried to watch the game again, but I didn't. I only got halfway in because I couldn't handle the commentary.
Well, that I had to watch it in pieces. So then what I went back and did is I watched all the highlights, and then I watched the game in 40, and then I went back to look for certain things that I saw. So I've watched it in a very disjointed way. So maybe I watched a different game to everybody else.
There was one time one of the commentaries was talking about him wearing shorts or something. When they bring up the old photos when they're a little kid or something like that. And I was like, I get that you're trying to be all about the Eagles and that's their home game. But I wanted to see Haskins play football. I wanted to see some of the best part of watching football is that pre-snap, and I didn't see any pre-snap because they were looking to the crowd, or they're looking to the crowd, or interviewing one of the Eagles guys, Kelsey, that big unit, and then you couldn't see what Matt Canada was doing for the offense. You'd scan back in, and there was 1 second to go, and they snapped the ball. So that was really frustrating to watch. But we still got the W in the end. I think we'll talk about Haskins as well, but Haskins played really well. I think he looks different. He looks very different to what Mason looks like. He looks more comfortable. Yeah. He goes through his reads. He has an opportunity to run the ball if he wants to. Yes, he still makes mistakes, but he looks. Yeah, it's a different a ton above.
I completely agree with you. I want to jump back to Joe Schobert in a second, but we may as well talk about Haskins. Why you've brought him up there, and you completely. The word I want to call it is composure, right? Haskins looks like he's playing the game, right? And yeah, he's mobile, and yeah, he's got a great arm, what have you. But when you go back and look at it, and you watch Mason Rudolph, behind the. So we're just gonna put that guy in. We're gonna see you later for that person. I don't know what's going on there. We've got someone in the live chat for us on the audio side. Anyway, so when you look at Mason though, when he goes to snap the ball, he is so stressed. He's sweating. It's like he's about to get raked over the hot coals. And I get everything that went on early in his career and the trauma that gives you, but you watch Haskins do it, and even the way Haskins just moving around the pocket, the game. You hear a lot of pros talk about it, particularly when a new player comes on the scene, and a commentator will talk about this in a lot of sports, is that the best players, the game slows down compared to that of everyone else, or the game is slower for them. They can process it faster. When Haskins moves around that pocket or out of the pocket in certain scenarios, you can tell he's seeing things. The game is a lot slower for him. He's processing the game. Whereas when Mason Rudolph is at the back there at the moment, I mean, it's like a frazzle. It's going everywhere. And this doesn't – I feel for Mason because I think he's been through things that have led to this, but also the difference in what he played in from a schematic system in college versus what he's asked to do in the NFL, and with an O-line that's newly trying to find some synergy. It's not even stabilized yet. There's young guys. It's just not set up for Mason. If you put him on a Colts team, for example, with their O-line, or you look at some of the other good O-lines around the league, he probably, if he's got more time to throw, would do a bit better. But, I mean, right now, if you're looking at going into the season, another good showing from Haskins, and I think he's got the number 2 spot.
I agree. It's actually in Rudolph's name. He kind of looks like a deer in the headlights a little bit. Gotcha. I got you while you're drinking coffee. There's no pun intended there, but it does. There's such a big difference. Now, I do like some of Rudolph's play. I thought he played very well against the Browns
100%.
last year. But then you come into a preseason game, and actually there are guys lighting it up in the preseason. The last few games, like Drew Lock, he's meant to be the starter, but he's versing Teddy Bridgewater. Now, why can't Rudolph go out there? If you're meant to be number 2 heading into your third year, is it third or fourth year? Third year. Third, you've got to go out there and dominate, and you have to be comfortable. And he's not comfortable in that pocket. Like that sack that he got run over by the defense. He just stood there and went, "Oh, where do I go?" Now Haskins has a better read and more time for what we've seen. The one error he made when he went outside the pocket and he threw that massive pass, he could have ran it. But I think you learn from that. Whereas Rudolph, he's either stalemating and going like even, or he's declining. But I don't know. I think I think you've got to put this may sound funny. Put Rudolph number 2, and then Haskins can always improve. Why tell the public that Haskins is number 2? Just put him as 3.
Yeah, I think Shield summed it up. It's an interesting one you bring up there. Shield summed it up for me as well. Like, you get nervous for Mason. You're like, what's going to happen? Is he going to lose a leg? Like, what's going to happen? I think for me, we're pairing all this back. Mason is a better number 2 than a lot of other number 2s in this league, right? He can throw that deep ball. There's a lot of things he does he actually does pretty well compared to a lot of our number 2s in the league that aren't like 37 and, they got no arm strength. Equally, Haskins could really come on. If Ben's not back next year, we have actually a solid team with an experienced O-line here to be able to do some things at different positions and then in 2023 go get a quarterback. So as Steelers, and Jeff Hartman brought this up on the Let's Ride after the game that he did on Friday morning, US time. Seems to be these two camps, Mason or Haskins, or basically Mason's terrible or give Mason time. As Steelers fans, and I agree with Jeff, I'm in this camp, I want them both to do well. I want depth. Like, think about the depth we have now at the quarterback position versus 2019 when Ben went down and we had Mason and Duck. And we're paying, the irony is, I'm pretty sure we're paying Haskins less money than we were paying to Devlin Duck Hodges, or it's equivalent money for a guy that went 15th in the NFL draft, that can actually play, So I think this is really interesting for Steelers fans to watch. As I say, if the right trade comes up, who knows, in terms of dealing Mason, or I don't think they're going to deal Haskins. But let's just let it continue. Perhaps also, as I say, I do think, in fairness to Mason, stability on the O-line would probably give him a bit more confidence. But I did have to say, if we're going to talk about the offense a bit more, and I think we'll have to talk about Joe Schubert back end of this half, because I think we're now well into the offense. But, I love the connection that he started to have with Najee Harris. I thought there was a really nice play action that they had. So that was an interesting piece for me. But while we're on Najee Harris, mate, did you see some of the leaping he was doing in this game? Like, he leapt over the guys to get the last couple of yards, and then he leapt to get over to get the first down as well, on the sidelines. Someone needs to tell Najee to pull it back a little bit. I'm a bit worried about this.
I get a bit nervous because he's a young guy who really wants to impress people on the Steelers, right? Now, that leaping stuff I think needs to go. You just need to be a bit smarter for your NFL career if you want to keep going for years and years and years. However, I have one more thing I think with Najee, which is a bit outside the box, but I think that what needs to happen is that, and he brought it up in one of his press conferences, is his I think he was talking to Fryermuth about, if you miss the block, go and get someone else.
Oh, yeah.
And that happened in the preseason game. He beat 2 tacklers, and pretty much all the Steelers' offense is stood around and wasn't blocking or wasn't, protecting Najee. And what I'm really worried about, what I think could also happen, is that safety coming down late and delivering a really big blow on Najee. Because if everyone thinks the play's over, Najee gets away from 2 tacklers and he's in that scrum, I would like to see some bodies protecting him,
Yeah.
if he was the quarterback coming out of a play, because I know that there are a lot of injuries, and we saw it even with who's that bloke when Drew Lock got hit last year. That's twice now I brought him up. The Broncos. He got out of the tackle, and then Bud destroyed him. Now I get a bit antsy that okay, maybe if Najee gets out of a tackle to make more yards, but there's always going to be that third or fourth defender. Just because you beat two defenders, it doesn't mean that you might get another 5 yards, but who's coming in next? So I think the Steelers need to be think about that and go, okay, Najee's going to always try and compete for more yards. Do we tell him to not always compete for more yards, or do we get more blockers in front? How do we address that situation? Because he's a gamer.
I think he's going to have to. This is going to be a learning process for him. I think he's probably going to have to cop a few hits to learn there, but I think that's something that he'll work on in the running back room. They'll work on from film. But I get what you're saying there as well. And, I tell you what, though, I'm excited for. I want to see at some point this season, particularly with Claypool and those sweeps last year and Deontay Johnson as well, even James Washington to a degree. I want to see at some point, if the Steelers are up, I want to see some sort of wildcat with Najee, because I tell you what, man, he's just explosive behind that line. And there was one run that he did. I think it only went for about 4 yards, but you saw Kendrick Green push up and Trey Turner push up together, and like the whole defensive line for the Eagles, and this was in the first quarter. I think it was about 10 minutes in, literally just like bent. It literally bent, like it went from like a horizontal to like a 45 degree, a 90 degree angle, 45 degree angle kind of thing. And it just completely bent. And I was just like, man, this is nasty. And, Dotson wasn't on the other side of them. Can you imagine? Like, I cannot wait for this O-line to be put together in the next couple of weeks.
And when they run, plays in order, and he gets involved in the game and starts playing more than 10% snaps, it's all going to come together. It's a thing that the running back needs to work out, or needs to work out, because it's probably one of the hardest positions to play, because you always get banged up, and we don't want to see him get hurt or things of that nature. We still want to see him lay the smack down as well. It's just that we talked about it before, Matty, when and you don't know what the defense is doing, if they're going to how hard they're going to hit you. So how fair they're going to play.
I mean, you've got to go full pelt though. Like, there's always that notion in sport where if you try and go soft, that's when you get the injuries. And I think there's some talk in the live chat about him always hurdling. Like, I don't mind him doing it, but pick your moment, right? Like, if you're in clear space, you've got one more guy to go and you want to do it to get into the end zone, completely get it. But and I guess the second one that he did that I talked about, he hurdled the guy and went out, right? So at least he's not going to get hit as he's going down on the other side. And the other one made sense when he wanted to do it for the first down. I just don't want to, I kind of feel like nicknaming him Hopper at this point, which is what we've had as a nickname for a lot of Manly players and stuff, like a bit like a kangaroo. Because right now he's like bouncing around that field, like he's just in the air.
He's eager to play, I reckon, Matty. He's really eager to play and to show what he wants to show, his football skills. You just don't want to see a guy do something that not necessary for a play, to hop out of bounds, like you said, at the 50-yard line and then get lit up by someone, and that turns their whole career. But we know, he's a smart athlete. He knows what he's doing on the football field. He's going to be tremendous for us, and you could just see the way he breaks off that ball compared to other running backs. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, big time. But it's like, and this is what I mean. Like, I talked to there about Kendrick Green and Trey Turner, and while we're talking about offense, I want to get it in. See, we got so much we want to talk about this show. I'm trying to get little bits in, but Trey Turner for me completely showed up this week. Like, I'm really excited by what we've got there in Trey Turner. But you think about it, like, once we actually get it settled on whoever the left tackle is going to be, you've got Banner in there working, you've got Trey Turner, Green, and Dotson. I mean, and Ben, with the right calls and the right timing and some better pre-snap motion than what they're doing right now, because Canada's obviously saving some stuff and it makes sense. And you've got, guys like Frymouth on there blocking too. I mean, I cannot wait to see. And you've got Juju there and Deontay as well and Claypool, in a 3 wide out set. The other team is going to have a real think about what they're going to do. And Najee's going to get the space. I'm so excited for that.
That's a good point, though, Matty, when you bring up Big Ben, right? So they're running these plays now. They're probably not changing anything or probably just doing the play that was set for it. Now,
That's what they were saying, yeah.
Yeah, you bring Big Ben into the occasion here, then you've got to, if he's a 17-year-old or 18-year-old veteran, if he sees something that's not going to work, he'll change it back to Najee. He'll change like a wheel route or something else. He'll get Najee the ball where he needs to get it. He won't give him a hospital pass like a lot of guys, who are in the QB depth, like 2, 3, and 4, like maybe Dobbs would or Mason or Haskins can throw someone like that. He's going to set them up for success. So, exactly. And the flashes I saw of Najee, he ran it like 5 yards, then he was getting tackled, and there was almost a break a hole here, and he could have went another way. And you put that on over a drive, and he's gonna do some work. So it was I did like the offense. I like Najee's play in the first half, and I like the offense played in the second half. Put those two together, and you've got a good team.
100%. 100%. I want to talk about Joe Schobert, but was there anything else on offense that you wanted to talk about?
Some of the young guys who were catching the ball was pretty impressive to watch. Is it? I've got to get my list here. Is it Cody White?
Yes.
Yeah, Cody White. He had 5 catches, I believe, though, and he was getting the first downs, and that was in the third quarter. Who's the other bloke? 84 had a pretty impressive game. He got hit to the head and knocked out. He did a good sideline go route and caught that. So they were helping Haskins out. The running game picked up. It was better to watch it in the.
McFarland looked a little bit better this week.
He did, yeah.
I thought he slowed. I thought, there were a couple of runs that, you were hoping he'd get more yardage, but I feel like he let himself not try and do too much, which is what we always talk about. I think he sort of took the approach of, okay, I'm going to let it come to me and see what opens up. And I kind of like that he was mature enough to take that approach this week. And again, whether he was running completely along the best line and the best makeup of the line, I don't think this game at any point had the best overall, makeup of the line. Actually, while we talk about offense as well, I was very happy for my bloke. Well, it wasn't someone that I predicted we draft, but since we drafted him, I've been very, very high on him. And Bad knows this. I've had a few chats with Bad about it on the Slack channel. But Dan Moore Jr., man, Dan Moore, he's doing real well. I'm excited for him. And Shooks better watch out because that guy can play.
He was part of that second half where Dotson and Dan, I did watch some of it before I got sick of the commentators. That now they are just creating space. So you create that space for Najee, and if he can miss that linebacker, he has a good chance to get around the safety as well. So they, look, and that comes down to the coaching too with Clem. He's got these fellas all coached up and ready to play. It's exciting to see, even in preseason, and we're down by 13 points or something like that, and we came back to win 26 or whatever it was, 26 to 18 or 16. It's just good football to watch and see. And look, if you're a player, you're going to have confidence in that, And, Ant Mac was doing well. We had, I know you're not too big a fan of J. Sam, and I do see how he's a star in preseason going against threes. Who was the other bloke in there? Tony Brooks.
The thing about Jalen Samuels is he was drafted when he went to the combine. I think he went to the combine, but when he went to the draft process, he was listed as a tight end, right? He's a traditional H-back. There are some offenses he would do very well in. He just doesn't fit what the Steelers want to do, and that's my point with him.
He looked a bit slower. I would agree. He looked slower on a few runs that I was like, yeesh. But then the offensive line really helped his play. He got about 4-point-something yards per carry. Same with that Brooks guy too. So a lot of these things, the coaches know when they're versing the third or fourth stringers. However, it is really good to see. Going against the Lions this week, it's going to be – actually, we'll probably, we'll preview right before the game what's going to happen. But it's interesting to see if Big Ben is there and calling the shots. He's a player, get Najee in space. Don't you agree? Get him in space and let him have a go. Let him have a dig. He's going to be, so exciting to watch.
Well, the other guy I want to talk about in offense too is Chaz Green. I'm talking a lot about O lineman today. Now, Chaz Green was someone that we picked up, pretty late in the piece, and in this offseason, I guess in the offseason side of things before the preseason started, and I'm not the best person to analyze O-line play, but you just go back and look at whether it's the highlights or them doing replays of particular snaps. He's always in there, and he always seems to be moving and, holding someone and pushing someone around. I mean, Joe Haig looked good in the first half at points, or it might have been the first quarter. And then later on in the game, he looked awful. Like he was basically falling down. Like he looked like he was, a 60-year-old man playing against, these 25-year-old professionals. He looks stupid. But Chaz Green, he's showing up for me. I'm excited for what he could be as a depth piece. I'm not going to say he's going to be a starter or anything like it, but there could be some strong depth there potentially with Chaz Green.
Isn't it like, it's interesting though, Matty, how it's very hard to watch the O-line, and we've discussed that before. But I guess we still don't know what the five are going to be, right? Do we?
Oh, I think we do. I think they're going to start with Okafor, but I think people are going to be surprised. I think Dan Moore's going to push it. I think you're going to go Dotson, Green, Turner, Banner.
Okay, right. But then is there a big gap between the next few pieces coming after those blokes, and can they compete for a spot?
Well, I mean, Finney's done well at guard by all accounts. Hassenauer's actually showed up at center, which is unbelievable. And then I think you've got, for me, Green over Haig. Like at the moment, I think they owe Haig a lot of money, though, if they cut him. So I don't think they've got much option there. But like for me right now, I would actually probably cut Haig, depending on what happens over the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, how could I forget Rashad Coward? Like, I'm excited for what Coward's doing. My gosh.
And this is the thing, though, with all these guys here, I guess Nazia hasn't run behind the five so far. So, that will come in time as well. I believe even versing the Bills and going on to the next few weeks into the season, the first 4 weeks is like, getting your boots on the ground and just trying to figure stuff out. So that's very interesting. But yeah, overall, I think we did well on the offense. And I believe we haven't won in the Eagles Stadium for a long time, preseason or regular season. I could be wrong, but I heard it was like 1965 or something like that. Look, the way your reaction, maybe it's wrong.
I don't know. It's hard to know. But for me, you put up 24 points after putting up no points in the first quarter. Like, I just think the way the Steelers responded from an offensive perspective, like you got to be up for that one.
Mason didn't put up points. It's a bigger thing if Mason goes out there and puts a TD on the board. We have a completely different conversation. But now we have something where Haskins comes in and saves the days and wins, and then Josh Dobbs finishes. It was a good performance overall. Really good performance. Yeah.
And then look, as I said, before we want to wrap up part one, I wanted to quickly talk about Schobert there. I think there's a massive trade. I mean, you're talking about someone that's 5 years in his career so far, 9 interceptions, 24 pass defense, 9 forced fumbles. So he's averaging 2 forced fumbles and, almost 2 interceptions a year. He's averaging, over 2 sacks per year, tackles for a loss. Again, he's got like about 4 per year there, but he's more of that coverage linebacker. He's getting to the quarterback as well. His approximation value through Pro Football Reference is almost that of a first round linebacker, and he was drafted in the 4th round by the Browns. I mean, Steelers fans, we've seen him play for the Browns a lot. I just think this is massive. This takes that defense to another level. When you think about, and we're going to talk about the defense in part 2, and I want to talk about some of the things that I saw from Ingram. But honestly, like that's a big trade from Kevin Colbert, and for like a very late draft pick. I think it's dependent now on what he actually does this season for the Steelers. By the sounds of it,
number 6 or something like that, I believe.
I think it's what they call a conditional late round pick. So I think it's all based on the incentives.
Yeah, right. Well, it's going to help out the middle linebacking core. And there is a little bit of, you could probably call a drop off with Spillane there, maybe not playing as well as he used to. Was it false hype the last year? However, I think for both parties, this is great. Bring in, how do you pronounce his name? Schobert. Bring in Schobert.
Yeah.
And then if he can play next to Bush, those two starters right there, then Spillane's that guy what you want as that depth piece to come in and do some splash plays. So maybe it's not time for Spillane to be the starter. It's Shobert's time and Bush's time, and then he's that third piece.
But this goes back to the whole. We've talked about this earlier, when I went on I've been on a few rants over the last sort of 6 weeks about this. But look at the depth you've got. Like, we want to go to a Super Bowl. Is Robert Spillane, after Vince Vinovici retired, is really and truly, you're sitting there on the balance thing, even if you're the biggest Spillane fan in the world, right? And he can do really well in the run game. Are Devin Bush and Robert Spillane going to win you a Super Bowl? Like, look at Levante David and Devin White last year for the Buccaneers. They basically won them that Super Bowl in that Super Bowl game. Devin White, Levante David, Devin Bush, Robert Spillane.
Well, obviously it's not, because they went out and got traded for Shober.
This is my point. You've got Shober now, and now you can get rid of UG3. Now you can definitely get rid of one of the guys from the What the Hell 5, which is Marcus Allen. See you later, alligator. Take some toilet paper because you stink. And, we can move forward with it. Like, I love this. I love this trade. And the thing that I love most about it is it takes there's two things. There's a 1A and a 1B. It takes the pressure off Bush coming back from his ACL to perform, to do everything lights out and to let him warm into it. And, we'll talk about the defense because he did let up a fairly big play there that I think he was just getting back to that game speed. And secondly, I think it allows Devin to do some things in the run game that he's not been able to do. He's had to be used very much in the pass coverage, but I want to see him, as I said earlier in this offseason, I think it was about 5 weeks ago. I want to see Devin, tackle some runners in the backfield for a loss more than he is. I want to see him go after the quarterback because of how quick he is. Joe Schobert allows them to do some things like that schematically, and I'm really excited by that because it absolutely opens up the potential, the extra potential for Devin Bush.
It brings in a guy who's going to help us run for a Super Bowl. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it frees up Spillane to have less pressure on that guy, so he can go do what he needs to do for this team. We're team mentality, we're not one player mentality. So bring the guy in and let's have a dig. This feels like this season. Actually, I said it every year, but it does feel like the season, Matty.
It does. But look, with that wraps up part 1 of this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host as always, Mark Davison. Join us for part 2. We're going to talk defense. We're going to give our 3-2-1 for this week and get to some audience Q&A as well because we're really excited. And we know that we've got, I think there's 50-something people in the live chat right now, and we really want to give you all a chance to, ask us questions or bring up things that you want to talk about as well. And if you are listening live right now with us on YouTube or Facebook, just hold tight for a couple of seconds and we'll be right back with you. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host as always, Marky Davison. If you're joining us on the audio side and you happen to come to part 2 before listening to part 1, feel free to go back to part 1 and hear us talk about Joe Schobert, the offense, and a couple of things in between. But Marky D, as always, let's kick it off with the segment that we love. And I think there's some new people to the show this week, definitely listening to us live. But just as Big Ben likes to sling the rock, we like to sling the Aussie slang. This is where our little segment where we talk about Aussie slang, or we talk about some of the things from down under, and we give a bit of our Aussie spice to it because, well, let's face it, you've got these two larrikins live from the future with the weird accents, talking Steelers. We're Aussies, but we love it. Mark, what do you got for us this week?
So actually, I've got 4. I wrote down 4 just in case that I had nothing. But if I've got 4, Matty, choose me a number between 1 and 4, and I'll pick that in order.
2.
We'll see. You chose. Why would you choose 2? Oh,
3.
No.
3.
Nah, man on my word. So this one I had him in the list. I don't know if it's an American thing or Australian thing. Do you remember the game called Stacks On?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's some memories.
For some reason, I came up with that today. I was writing them down, and a few I was like, Stacks, I remember you were kids and you used to run around and just randomly, you could be watching TV, having breakfast, you could be in the classroom, and next minute you'd Stacks on, and you just jump on one person. I don't know.
That's what it looks like when Najee goes to hurdle. It's like Stacks on. Everyone wants to jump on Najee Harris.
Stacks on Najee. Yeah, I don't know if that's an Australian thing or an American thing. I just thought it was funny. And that's probably the hardest one to talk about. So thanks for choosing number 2. What's yours this week?
Yeah, so we talked a little about in part 1 about why we're talking about rocking the Eagles, and we talked about Eagle Rock, being a song by Daddy Cool, and that's the theme song for our Manly Seagulls in the NRL. But we often get asked by people, particularly when we started this show, everyone always asks, how did you become Steeler fans and what have you? And for me, we've talked a little bit about it, but one of the things that factored into me was how similar the mentality of the Manly Seagulls and the Steelers is. But when you actually go back and look at it, they're also very similar teams, in terms of their hard defense, also the premierships or the Super Bowls in the NRL. They tie in very well with the timeline of when the Steelers won Super Bowls. So what people will be pretty interested to know, and it did feed into it for me, is both teams won premierships or their titles or Super Bowls, whatever we're going to call them, in 1976. But the 76 for Manly, was when, the Steelers won it in their 76 season. 1978, when the Seagulls won, is the same season technically when the Super Bowl's played as the 1979 Super Bowl for the Steelers, and then the Manly Seagulls won a premiership in 2008, which again was the same season. When you look at when the seasons start as when they overlap as when the Steelers win it in 2009. So and Manly have 8 premiership titles versus the Steelers 6 Super Bowls. But I just thought it was pretty cool because, there are, people ask us these questions about why we support the Steelers and what have you. And it's one that we've never really been able to talk about. But there is some really cool overlap to it. So it just sort of got me thinking this week. And, so sometimes we like to do the Aussie slang and sometimes we like to give you a bit of perspective on different things. And Mark and I talk about Manly a little bit. And I hope if someone, in the live chat starts supporting the Manly Seagulls at one point, not the Philadelphia Eagles, of course. Anyway, it just sort of got me thinking, and very old school. Yeah.
Well, yeah, here's one for you. When they won that premiership, Manly versus the Melbourne Storm,
40-0.
They beat them 40-0, and we have there's a team in the NRL that is exactly like, I would say they're like the Patriots. That they tend to cheat.
They're like the Patriots, but I've compared the rivalry to that with the Ravens. Remember when we first went on Bad Show to preview this show when it was on the audio side? And I said to him, there's this team that, is constantly battling with our Manly team, and they're called they're purple like Baltimore, and they're called the Storm. But you're right. They're like the Patriots.
The Melbourne team cheated that year. I believe they were over the salary cap with their players. They put too much money into their team. And then they cheated, and they found out to be cheated. I think that was a year, and then we beat them 14-0. So
they cheated the year before when they smashed us too. They cheated that year too.
They're the type of team that I think that draw the line. The Patriots get away with certain things that aren't really in the football culture or the identity of the game, and they push it to the level of the law where you can't do it, but you can do it. Like with Belichick, holding on to timeouts or something he did last year. Now it's a different kind of rule. But yeah, it's very funny how awesome Matty says Danda. It's funny though, how you and I aren't Philadelphia Eagle fans. How didn't we didn't transition from Manly Sea Eagles to Philadelphia Eagles, which would have been an easy one.
Because we're not. Yeah, and this is it, right? Because we're not a basic fan. We actually care about the teams we support. We care about what they stand for. We care about the history. We care about the way they play. We care about the cult. Not just going, they've got the same name, they're going to be a good team to support. We've got something between the ears, mate, as they say. Is that the only Australian saying? I don't know.
I don't know. But even when I was growing up watching, they had Donovan McNabb was kind of pretty
He
fun
was
to
big,
watch.
actually. Yeah.
But the Eagles were the team that were trying to get to Super Bowl and always lost, or they lost in the NFC Championship. So maybe that's another reason why we didn't support them. For me, it was basically the colors alone. But I never put the two together of I follow the Manly Sea Eagles and I thought the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm so glad that you and I have both been to Pittsburgh, and we said it before. It's one of the best cities you can ever go to. As a football fan, as a city in general, it's so nice. So I'm glad we have that connection as well to go to an awesome city to have fun as well, and not I couldn't imagine going to the Cleveland Browns or Detroit. Sorry about people who live in Detroit, but the Pittsburgh is a lovely city. I just think it's awesome.
But the other thing too is that it's quite cool. When you, yeah, I saw that. We're gonna bring that up. We're gonna bring that. But the other thing I was gonna say is because the I don't know, it's smaller crowds, whatever. But when you go watch the Manly Sea Eagles, you can stand on the hill, and the field's called Brookvale Oval, and the vibe at Brookie on that hill. I've never experienced anything like it, right? Particularly when it's a full stadium. That hill is just you're standing room only. People are going nuts.
There's blokes over there with VB cans cheering everyone.
Yeah, that's it, right? And then you go to Heinz Field and you hear Renegade, and you're like, oh man, this is nuts. I mean, there's something special still about being on the hill at Brookie and suburban ground, and our grandfathers would have watched football like that. But I gotta say, it's that sort of thing. There's so many synergies, and like you, I like the colours first, but then when I delved into it and I saw they had the premierships at the same time and all the titles at the same time, anyway, I just thought it was something different that we haven't really covered off before. But Marky D,
we got a super chat.
We got a super chat from Shield.
Yeah, he
says, me on. Mark, can you say credit card in a US accent? I just about soil myself every time you do it.
Man, all right, okay. I will say it in a minute. Give me time, Shield. All right, mate. Just ease up, mate.
But thank you very much for $5 in the tip jar.
I got to say though, with the Manly ground, I used to know. We used to walk down to the stadium, right, Matty, and when I was little, and there was people sitting on neighbors' roofs watching the game because it lives in the neighborhood, and people wouldn't pay the money, but they could still watch the game from 100 meters away or up top of the hill. It's a good. We both actually. The point now is everyone hates Steelers right now. They really, really do. They can't do anything, can't go anywhere. Even people hate Manly. But one thing, it doesn't matter to me. I'll use my credit card to buy jerseys. Yeah, and that was terrible.
Down under. That's the sort of American accent you get on Touch. Down under.
Oh, I'm a bit off my game today. I'm a little bit tired. I didn't get too much sleep. So Shield up. Yeah, another day I'll have to do it. Better than that. That was terrible.
There's some great emojis going on in this live chat. All right, let's get back to Steelers. We're still talking about Steelers when we're talking about that. We're talking about Super Bowls. But let's look at the defense from this week before we get into some Q&A. 3, 2, 1, and then Q&A. Mark, you're getting Marky D is the man. Donald Nolan. That hard R is hilarious.
Look, it's. I need to be over there, have a few schooners in a bar, and I can really do my American accent. So
do you know the one for me though? So I work for an American company, and my boss is in America and all that. But I say words like in Australia you'd say literally, whereas I say literally, and then instead of saying data, I say data. There's a lot of words that I say that are American.
No one says data.
Data.
Oh my God! I'll use my credit card to increase my data. I don't know. Now it's getting better, isn't it?
Yeah. That was
All right, on to the defense.
Crazy.
TJ Watt played awesome.
Pardon?
I said TJ Watt played awesome. Oh wait, he wasn't out there.
Well, actually, all right. Well, we're going to start there. I tell you what, and he played on both sides, and he talked about in the post-game press conference about being versatile on both sides and needing to do it. I know he didn't quite get to the quarterback, but if you go back and look at that tape, Melvin Ingram is the pressure that he's. are going to put at some point and steer the blocker into the quarterback if he's not going to get the sack and knock him down that way. Like use the blocker as like a pinball, kind of like a bowling pin or something like that. I don't know, whatever mallet, whatever analogy you want to use. But man, Melvin Ingram drives people backwards, and half the time he's a lot smaller than the bloke. Like his legs you just watch them pump. They're like these little pistons.
Yeah, and it's very similar to some of the other guys too. They only had a few snaps, so it wouldn't be too worried if he doesn't show up on tape too much. He's going to be there. A guy that I did like on the linebacking core was Jameer Jones. He seems like another guy that's just relentless in the tackles.
But I don't. So there was a lot of talk about this in the post-game show from Jeff, Bad, and Dave. I don't want them to cut Roche to keep, Jameer Jones. I want them bye Marsh back to the swamp. Back to the swamp.
Surely they cut Marsh. You know what I really find about this is my Steeler fan card. I don't know what it is, Matty. I don't think he's a Steeler. I just don't get that vibe. I don't get that sense of like that Steeler mentality. I don't know. That could just be me being crazy, but I don't see him. I don't know. I really don't see everything I've watched with him. Nothing stands out to me. Nothing. So
also, aren't Pokemon cards back in and making heaps of money? Shouldn't you just go back to doing the Pokemon cards? The Pokemon King.
$100,000 for a few of them.
$100,000.
Yeah, if you get a good Charizard, that's clean. You're rich.
Man, everyone loves a Charizard, eh?
We had them, Matty. You and I had them when we were kids, and I
know they're all thrown out. They're probably vintage.
I was like making mine as paper airplanes and like shooting them away or throwing them in the.
We had this kid. His dad owned the newsagent, right? And they were really rich. What are they? They call them newsagents in America, like the paper store.
I don't know.
Someone in the live chat, tell us if you got newsagents, because we have them here. They sell the lottery tickets, they sell papers, magazines, but it's like kind of postage stamps and birthday cards and wrapping paper and office supplies. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a newsagent, but they were a thing. I mean, my grandparents even owned a news agency at one point. Anyway, we had a kid that we were at school with. It was so sidetracked now. I'm meant to be talking about defense. Anyway, he was they actually had a couple of news agents and this family. And so they had a bit of money. But basically news agents sold things like trading cards. And so this kid had all these trading cards packets, and he wrote Christmas cards for everyone in the class one year and gave out these shiny Pokemon cards. And the quality of card you got depended how much he liked you. It was quite cutthroat, actually.
Yeah, I don't think they do call them.
Well, there's a bit of Aussies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could have been rich. We could have been really, really rich, you and I, Manny. But it doesn't matter.
We're Australian whack fashion. Google it. News agency into Google Maps after the show. We don't want you to leave the show. Anyway, back to the defense. We're very sure that Cassius Marshall's bye-bye. I'd tell you what, though. When is it Quez Watkins, the wide receiver from the Eagles, broke that long run, and Sutton let that go. That wasn't Norwood's fault, actually.
Sutton got held.
But if you look back at it, right, Mollett went in to try and sack the quarterback and realized he wasn't going to get there or to put pressure, and he jumps up to tip the pass, right? That doesn't happen, right? So he's the first person that could have done something that doesn't. Then Edmonds comes in, and it wasn't the first time in these games. I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but for me, Edmonds made a fair few mistakes in this game. If you go back and look at it, he's near the ball where he should be making a play, particularly against lower-ranked opposition in his role. He was way off on several snaps that caught my eye. So then Edmonds is there. So you've got Mollett, closest to the ball, number one. The quarterback throws it. Then Edmonds is there as well as he sweeps around. Then you've got Sutton, who actually needs to make the tackle. He gets blocked, right? And then after that, you've got Norwood trying to run onto it, and even Spillane. And at one point, Spillane was closer. There were 5 Steelers there that all could have done something. Mollett is at least at fault because his job, you can tell, was to pressure the quarterback, but he went for it he was so off the pace, and then he went to try and tip the ball. He was nowhere near it. But I tell you, for me, it wasn't just Sutton that looked bad on this. It was Edmonds, and Edmonds looked bad on several snaps, as I just said. He needs to fix that. He really needs to fix that.
Yeah, that play was. I really do think that he was held in that play, and they're not calling a lot of penalties or flags in these preseason games. They're just letting it play, I believe. But Yeah, defense played okay overall. Good, they didn't surrender any points in the second half, I believe. So 16 in the first, 0 in the second.
How good was Loudermilk?
Loudermilk played pretty good. There's a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that's what you need to put pressure on. I think it was Mullins, who was from SF. He threw 2 picks. I believe one was to a safety. Pitts, that was a good pick. There was another one, right? Justin Lane had a pick, and I'll talk about him in our 3-point category. I think it was good. It was good to see the guys. It just really is good to see the guys on defense get after the quarterback, because that's what we're known for. That's how we're going to create pressure in this season. Get after the quarterback, force a mistake. Bush or Sherbert, pick it off. Minka's there. So quarterbacks play better too.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like, I really liked Kenneth Gainwell from the Eagles. He was someone that I wanted the Steelers to draft, and I actually thought he really showed up. So I'm glad we don't have to play them, later on. But yeah, it is what it is. But in terms of the defense, otherwise, was there a standout person in the secondary for you? Because for me, I don't know. Like, yeah, Justin Lane made the play, but I think Pierre played well again. He continues to show up, but there wasn't, other than that, there wasn't anyone that went. It's
a hard one, because I do think, like, Jimmy Jones played some good football, and I like his mentality. But I do believe in the defense that they didn't let a third down. I think there was one time where they were over 8 on third downs.
Yeah.
I can't really single out, say, the one person without giving away some of my points. But yeah, the linebacking play was good. I like the middle linebacker. We did get burnt via Bush, so he got burnt on that first. But that's something you give away once, and you probably don't give away again.
Yeah.
It's
you don't know as well, like, and Jeffrey Benedict said it in the Slack channel, and it came up in the post-game show. The Steelers have hung their inside linebackers out to dry a little bit with the defensive schemes that they're running. I still think Spillane has not played well. I just don't. But, I mean, that's something to think about as well. And I don't know if Edmonds is, positioning feeds into that as well. But, I mean, yeah, I'm not impressed with Edmonds at this point in time. And Clarence in the live chat says he's a weak link, and he has looked that way so far, so he really needs to put it together. But let's go into your 3-2-1, because we want to give time to Q&A, and I think we need to finally put an answer on this newspaper piece, because the news agencies, because there's lots of chat in the live chat about news agencies.
Oh, there's probably so many things that you and I say in our daily life that doesn't happen over there. It just doesn't come to the top of our head. Okay, so I think we should start from 1, 2, 3 and build our way up to the best player. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, agree with you.
This week, so with our point scheme, I would say that 1 point would go to Justin Lane. Now, I think he played better, and I ragged him out last week, but that's what, I'm a coach. That's what coaches do. You stuffed up, do it better, and this week he played better. He didn't give away too many yards. He had that pick. It was a nice interception. He got yards after the catch. He ran about 20 yards. I think for his progression as a player, he deserves 1 point this week. What about your 1 point?
My 1 point, and people are going to be upset with me for not giving him more, but I'll tell you why, because I gave him 2 last week. Dwayne Haskins, he gets a point. I was happy with him. And he continued to develop. So I'm judging him as a harsher critic than I was last week, because I expected more this week. But, and he could have easily been 2 points, but, it'll make sense when I give my 2 points as to why. But, yeah, for me, Haskins gets a 1.
Excellent. All right. So heading into the second best player I thought played on the field, we talked about him before. It has to be Najee. And even though he only played 5 snaps, I still think that that excitement, that excitement is there for him. And I think that in those runs that we saw in those 5 yards, if he has a whole game to develop his carries, then we have something really special with Najee. So there are other players I was going to choose, that players might not be on the roster in a few weeks' time, but I had to give it to Najee just because of his talent and the level of, football prosper that he might turn into. So 2 points to Najee.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's not bad. I gave my 2 points to Loudermilk.
Yeah, fair call.
Right. Tackle for a loss, sack, 2 tackles, showed up, looks good. He's going to develop. I thought he validated his, selection there in the 5th round and the trading up from the 4th round the following year. Loudermilk got it for me, and I think he's going to continue to prove doubters wrong.
He's a big fellow, and he did show a lot of push in that pocket, and he got the sack. So, he looked pretty strong in there. I would, I'd agree with that. I think he played, well enough to have a job. Heading into my last one, you've already brought him up. I had a bit of trouble trying to think about who was going to be the best player for the Steelers, and I had to go with the guy with the points. Haskins, to me, brought the team back to win this game. Down by 16, came back to win 24-16. So 21 points they put on, and he's the guy. I think, for me, he's my three-pointer. I think he played the best. I think he was composed. There's a lot of upside with Haskins can be number 2. Once we go through this year, more training, more development, then next year, if Ben's not there or he's away, maybe Haskins is a starter. It's a perfect scenario for Haskins to get back into the NFL and get back into football shape with not too much stress other than be a third guy or a second guy.
Yep, fair enough.
Who's your last guy? Who's the most outstanding player?
So this is going to sound funny, right? And it's hard because I would have liked to have said an O-lineman, but Dotson would have needed to play with the other guys. I thought Green had a good play. Barry kicked well, right? He did. My actual 3 points this week goes to Rico Bussey, number 84.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Okay.
4 receptions. He was someone I kept putting in my mock drafts. I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about him on War Room, but I've secretly been sitting here going, I like Rico Bussey, right? Getting all warmed up. Want to revitalize the number 84 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He can do some stuff in the return game as well. He had 4 receptions on 4 targets, 45 yards, an average of 11.3. He had a longer 24, so he showed he can do the small stuff and the big stuff. I think he's putting pressure on Ray McLeod, which is exactly what I wanted from him. And yeah, bring it on. And we got him, undrafted. I'm pretty sure in the end, I don't think we ended up drafting him. Oh wait, was he number 6? Regardless, I don't care. I'm a fan of him.
Yeah,
I wanted to make this squad. I don't want to be on the practice squad because someone will take him. And yeah, we got the points for me this week.
He took a really big hit as well, and just got right up, and we got the penalty for that. And he took a hard shot. Exactly right. 4 receptions. He seems like a guy that he's raring to break one or get away from a defender and see what can happen. Do we want to go into our Manly awards as well, or our strength, courage, and spirit?
We'll do that for this week. Week. We've got more awards that we're going to hand out, come the regular season. But let's get through it, and then we've got some really quick time for some Q&A. So load up your questions. Well,
basically, I just wanted to bring up Kevin Dotson like we did before. I just think that he shows brute strength in that O-line, and he's going to be the difference maker for this team and for the O-line and for our success. So I think he deserves the Manly Award this week, and he's just playing outstanding football. Things can only get better when you play like that. The way he moves people in the pocket, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch. He was picking up guys who were 120 kilos and just moving them to the side. So see ya, get out of the way. It was good. It was good to watch.
Jeez, Manly Award this week. Dan Moore for me.
There you go. Well, those two blokes played together, didn't they? I was going to pick one or the other. Pick one or the other. Yeah, Dan Moore. He proved that he's going to be putting pressure on Okafor. And if I'm Okafor, not Okafor, but Dan Moore. It's going to be good. Yep, I'd like play from both Dotson and Moore as well. It was good to see.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of minutes for questions, so load them up. I'm going to try and look out and see whether we had any questions while we're talking there. As I said, it's bumper show this week. We knew we went a bit off topic at points, but we knew that we were going to struggle to get through everything that Mark and I had on our list. So it's been an awesome show and some awesome live chats. But while we wait for we do have a question. All right, Portner. If the Eagles make left tackle Andre Dillard available, would we trade for him? And will you both acknowledge that Rabbitohs helped out the Steelers by developing Jordan?
Nah.
Mailata. Jordan Mailata's not bad. I don't think and I'm not going to acknowledge the Rabbitohs, and I don't see how they helped us out. He's not that bad. He actually is.
Portner's always bringing up that, that I said last year that the Rabbitohs like the Bengals, and because the Rabbitohs have been winning, I don't care. I still hate them. I hate the bloody Rabbitohs. Bloody bunnies.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the bunnies.
No way,
what RB gets cut? All right, my RB. My RB room is Najee, McFarland, Kalen Ballage at this rate. I think Petey, the new guy, will go on the practice squad. I think they're going to keep Snell at this point if they're not going to trade him. But I stick by what I said. And I wanted to say this depending on what questions we got asked. I don't think the fourth running back on this list is on the Steelers roster right now. And that's something I want everyone to really be careful about. And Felicia put up in the live chat earlier around all the different cuts that were coming and the dates they're coming. So on Tuesday by 4 p.m., they have to cut the first 5 players from this roster. The Steelers will have players both from this previous draft and other drafts that they really liked, that they really wanted to get, that might become available through other teams' cuts. And I can see that being at the running back position as well. So I think the way this roster looks like, even once we go week 1 versus what it looks like week 3, not just due to injuries, but different cuts that it made, and where the Steelers will trust someone for a couple of weeks and then go, no, we don't, we're gonna cut you loose now, is going to be very different. So part of me still thinks that fourth running back is not even on the roster right now. But based on who is on the roster, yeah, I reckon it's Najee, McFarland, Ballage, and Snell.
Right. You know what? I'm going to go a little bit different. I reckon they might go Najee. Because my question on Snell, I don't know what is happening. Is he out? Is he being traded? I'm not too sure. So he is not in contention. Najee, McFarland. I have to go with Ballage. And the key piece that Jeffrey Benedict talked about on his articles and stuff a few days ago is Trey Edmonds.
No.
You never know, mate. Look, there's a few things I've seen him play. He could be there. He could be there.
I think he'll be one of the veteran. I think he'll be on the practice squad in one of the 6 spots that's for the players with 2 or more accrued seasons.
He's a big unit too. He's like a big fullback, and he was blocking pretty well. He's a wild card if he makes it. But what do I know?
No. Look, Jeffrey Benedict, I think knows more than me. So I see why. I don't know. Look, it depends on Snell's injury too. Like Trey Edmonds could take that full spot because Snell's on the injury list for a while. But I want to bring up Shield's question. Okay, what is your most meaningful Steeler item thus far in your fandom? Mine is my first jersey, which is TJ, which I'm pretty new. Oh, okay. You've got a lot, Mark, so I'm going to let you have a think about that.
You go first.
So I have my Juju jersey, Color Rush, stitch numbers that my fiance got me when we went to Heinz Field. But she also got me, which is behind me, my Mean Joe Green Hall of Fame signed full-size helmet. And she also got me my Hall of Fame Jerome Bettis football back there. Both were for my 30th. So I have kind of 3 coveted items there. That's a hard one. I think because we have the experience, I'd have to go I love those 2 things behind me, and they kind of count as one. It's hard. I can't split those 3. They're special for different reasons.
So I feel shocked. I was thinking for about a minute what I was going to choose, and then it came to my little head here. The old terrible towel. Are you joking?
That's your most coveted item. Your 6 Super Bowl one.
That's my most meaningful item. Do you know why? Because the one little story I have about this, Matty, is that it's never been washed because it never gets dirty. Right?
I never washed my terrible towels.
You don't need to. You've got to be very careful with it. You've got to make sure you fold it up nice and neat. And there is one thing about my steel and nerdum as well. When I walk around with my backpack and I go somewhere, I have a section in the back of my backpack that can put so many things, probably like 10 liters of stuff. It only has my terrible towel. The reason why I put it there is because the terrible towel then sits on my back and it's comfort. And it's like, I'd probably die. If someone stole this from me, I'd be like, all right, mate, this is fight to the death, grab your pitchfork and I'll go to the bat and we'll see what happens. This to me is like life. Like, this is like my life right here. So, nah.
It's a real flag. I love it. Michael O'Malley, who do you see at tight end to start the real season? I think it's Freiermuth, Ebron, and Gentry. I think Gentry's actually showing up for once.
Oh well, he's a tall unit. He's 6'8". Like,
You caught him 6'12" in the.
He's massive. You said he's huge. Like he's got to do something. He can just put his arms up like this and stand in the end zone and just target the hands.
Well, this is why Boswell, ever since he's been on the rosters, kicked better, because basically when they go and they warm up before the game, he just puts his arms up and it's the goals. Oh, we're getting silly now. I think we need.
I don't know how you thought of that so quickly. That was brilliant.
Because when you put your arms up, actually, you know what he looks like? You know those streamer dudes at like the car sales? I don't know if they have them in the US or not. If they don't, I look like an idiot live on YouTube right now. I probably sound like an idiot half the time anyway. So what's the difference? What's up with these? Buck Dancer says, "What's up with these short passes again this season?" I think they're not. I think they're not trying to show too much. They're not trying to do too much. They don't want anyone, I mean, they're just trying to be real careful about what they're seeing. Once they can actually analyze teams and what they're putting on tape, I wouldn't look into it as people can't throw deep passes or anything like it. I think they're being very mindful of giving the guys at the wide receiver or whoever's going to catch the football. They're giving them actual plays that they can catch the ball and make a play off, and also, they want to see what people can do in space and with defenders around them. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Kathy brings up my signed Heinz Ward jersey.
Wow, that's a brilliant jersey. What a great stealer, Kathy.
Cree says, great show. Have a great night, y'all. Have a good night too, everybody. Thank you very much, Cree. 5'20". That's how tall he is. Oh, great. This is basically the after party AU edition. Yeah, well, Mark and I like to give you a bit of fun because it's on a Saturday night. And then Buck Dancer, I think this will be the last question for the show. Mark and Matty, what do you call kids ankle biters? I've heard that term. Yeah.
Yeah, or Rugrats,
Rugrats? Yeah, that was a show. That was Nickelodeon.
I like calling them, like, a lot of my friends have, babies. I like calling them, like, little fella, little fella's cool.
Little fella, little tyke.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I think
that's a very Australian thing, ankle biter.
Mark Tobin. Was Cheeks with the starters and how did he go? Well, it's hard to say with the starters, because, I mean, technically, yes, he was at the start of the game, but, when you talk about the starters, I think the starters were kind of mixed in terms of the different teams. I just don't think – I don't know. I wonder whether Chuke's playing right tackle all the last year. Now he's had to switch back to left tackle. I think there's a bit of rust there. But I just like Dan Moore. I think he's got mongrel to him. And it was weird because when he came out of the draft, people were sort of saying, he needs to sort of toughen up and be more physical. I disagree. I think he's come out and been super physical. Maybe it's Clem, I don't know. But he was also quite physical at college. So when I saw some highlights, yeah. But Mark, anything else you wanted to say before we close out the show?
Nah, just looking forward to next week when we do our, pre-game little commentary and we go through some of the players who might step up in the Lions game. I'm pretty excited for that. But hey, have a good week this week, and there's plenty of stuff on behind the steel curtain. This is one of the funnest things I've done in my life, and having a good time with Matty is awesome. So we appreciate all the listeners and all the audio guys. What better way to put the us on a podcast and have a laugh, and that's what we want to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, me too. And so we right now, I'm getting confused on the time conversions, whatever. But right now it's 10:15 in the morning for us. The game's going to go live at 9:30 a.m. for us next week. So we're going to go on at 8:30. So we're going to go on basically 2 hours from now, from whatever time zone you're listening to us to, if you're listening to us live. So that's what's going to be pretty interesting from that perspective. But yeah, we're excited for that pregame show, and we're going to have a few fun things to ask you guys as well, and predictions and all the rest of it. But with that wraps up Steelers Touch Down Under this week. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host, as always, Marky D, who can't get his terrible tower right, but that's all right. It's his precious thing. He treats it like his flag, folds it up, and everything's got a folding pattern, won't let it touch the ground, takes it everywhere with him, But with Mark, as always, close out the show.
Go Steelers.